All right. I am so excited to get to the final segment of our night. Who here is a Love is Blind fan? Yeah, season two. Who had no idea that this was happening tonight? Just showed up to Fuck Up Nights. Yeah, okay, nice. I love that. Gotta love a good surprise. So I am so excited that this worked out. This was such a serendipitous thing that happened. Deepti's publicist actually applied to be a speaker and happened to mention that Deepti was in town for the week, and we ended up making this happen, getting her to join us here today. So, we're gonna do a very intimate fireside chat. Please start thinking of your questions right now because you're gonna have an opportunity to ask Deepti any questions of your own. So, Deepti, for those of you who know her, and maybe some of you who maybe haven't watched Love is Blind, she, aside from Love is Blind, is an author, podcast host. She's somebody who's really passionate about authentic storytelling, expert now on navigating relationships, self discovery, and modern dating. And through her podcast and through her book, she explores cultural identity, family expectations, loving yourself, and embracing individuality. Deepti, come on up and join me on stage for our fireside chat.
When I get chills at night, I feel it deep inside. Without you, yeah. Know how to satisfy, keeping that tempo right. Without you.
Oh, hi. Welcome to Fuck Up Nights. So I feel like, for those of you that have watched Love is Blind, you might recognize the the special gold cups. I had to bring those. The dollar store had them. But I fucked up. I forgot to, to put anything in them. So they're just a prop.
I
Just some
actually
empty
have the
cups.
gold goblets. I should have brought them with me.
Oh my god, that's amazing. What's the meaning behind those gold goblets? Is
Oh,
there anything?
okay. A little tea for you guys. So it makes editing easier. So say you're drinking a drink and they want to like put things out of order. It's easier to edit when it's completely gold and you can't see through it. So
That's so funny. Wow, mystery solved. So Deepti, we all saw your journey on Love is Blind. I think we're all curious. Is there anything that really surprised you or shocked you about the process or being on reality TV?
yeah, I think the main thing was how much goes into it. I didn't realize like how big of a team there was. Like just for me and Shake, who I was paired with, or I picked, I should say. We probably had like 15, 20 people just with us, our own film crew, our own producer, our own story writer. So I think I didn't realize how much went into it and also how much they edit it. Like I'm pretty sure there was 350 hours of filming and they obviously brought that down to 10 episodes and there's 6 couples, so you're barely getting any airtime, so I was very surprised by that.
Wow. Yeah, who would have thought? That's crazy that it takes that many hours to film it and then it just gets condensed to that and you never know how that editing is going to go and how you're going to be portrayed. Your story resonated with so many people because you chose yourself at the altar. What was going through your mind in that moment at the altar and maybe leading up to it too?
It's bringing me back some memes. Honestly, it was a very intense moment. Not only do you have like hundreds of cameras there, you have your friends and family waiting for you to get married when you're going to say no. So that's a bit awkward. um, but honestly, I think at that time, me and Shake were actually really good friends in a way. I didn't know what he was saying, obviously in interviews and things like that. I found that out a year later. So I think there was a lot running through my mind. I wanted to handle it gracefully because we did have a really amazing, unique experience. But at the same time, I wanted to stand up for myself. So I would say a whirlwind of emotions for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So I'm so glad that you were able to join us earlier in the event than you actually got to watch some of the talks tonight and see what Fuck Up Nights is all about. I'm really curious, how do you define failure? What does it mean to you? And has that definition changed over time?
Oh, yeah. I think my definition of failure changes constantly. But, obviously, by definition, it's not getting the outcome that you want. But I look at it as a stepping stone. I think I learn more from my failures than I do my successes. And I've failed quite a bit, but that's why I feel like I'm such an evolved person. And I feel like that's why I'm kind of funny too. I've gone through some things. Um, but yeah, I think I would define it as a stepping stone and a growth moment.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're all about here. Um, you know, when you think about rejection a lot of the time can feel like failure. This can be in your personal life, in your professional or business life. How have you learned to deal with rejection? Have you learned to kind of redefine it for yourself, or what's your process with it?
Yeah, I firmly believe that rejection is a redirection. Like when I don't get the job that I want, there's always a better one waiting for me or the one that fits me better. Even in relationships, if I get rejected, I'm like, okay, I realize I don't want to be that person's girlfriend based on things that you see on social media. So I really think it's definitely a redirection. And if you don't focus so much on the fact that you didn't get something and focus on just shifting that energy to finding the next opportunity, I think it just kind of makes it easier.
Absolutely. If you could redo your time in the pods, do you think that you would have picked differently? Is there anything at all that you would have done differently on your journey on Love is Blind?
I know you guys want me to say I should have picked differently, but honestly, I don't think I would change a thing. I think I needed to go through that again for that growth moment. I came into that experience actually feeling very confident in myself and having a certain mindset, but going through that entire hardship, I'll call it, I think really helped me realize there's so much more that I can learn and so many things that I need to do differently and change my mindset on. So I honestly think I don't have any regrets. I'm glad I picked. Well,
That's
dun, dun, dun.
amazing. Yeah. That's like I feel like sometimes every, failure, personal or, or professional, it's meant to be and it's taking you to something that is right for you. And when it comes to relationships as well, any bad or, wrong relationship, it's also teaching you what not to do or like what you're actually looking for and what's going to be right for you. So every experience like that definitely has its place. I think walking away from something, whether it's a relationship, a job, or really any kind of situation, it can sometimes feel like a failure in the moment. Did you feel that way at all? And if you did, how did you deal with that mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did feel very let down because I came into the experience wanting to find love and I didn't end up getting that. And I think in the moment, you don't see what other things you've gained from the experience. For me, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I didn't find my husband. Like that's why I did this entire thing and went through this emotional roller coaster. But after a few months post show, I realized I gained so much more. I gained love for myself. I gained beautiful lifelong friendships, and I became friends with also the cast and crew. So I think all the little glimpses of beautiful things within the chaos exist if you just choose to look for it. And that's kind of what I did.
I love that. That's beautiful. Your story unfolded in front of millions of people. How did you handle public judgment, commentary, and negativity without letting it get to you? And how did you bounce back from that experience?
That's a great question because the internet is a mean place.
Yeah.
um, it was tough, actually. I think I was very much worried about how people perceived me. I mean, I'm Indian. The culture is literally care about what other people think of you. It was really tough to kind of just allow people to just have whatever opinion of you they want. Um, I think it took me some time, but now I spend less time in the comments and it's like whatever opinion they have, they have. So I've kind of taken it, I've internalized it and set boundaries with it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure that your relationship with social media has changed quite a bit after becoming a public figure. How do you decide how much of your personal life to share now?
Oh, I barely share anything. I mean, there's a way to be private and also share on social media. And it's hard to find the balance between the two, but I think I don't put out like my deepest, darkest thoughts out there. I'm more like, oh, here's my coffee. So I think you can find the balance between the two. But I firmly believe if there's something good going on in your life, I don't tell a lot of people, very close knit family and friends, because my mom always like is like, Nazar, your evil eye is always out there. So I keep my circle very small and tell only the people that I love, like my most private things or goals that I'm working on.
That's such an interesting approach. I'm sure, a lot of people here tonight, especially, entrepreneurs that, your brand is so revolved around, your personal brand as well. And so much of your success really depends on how much you can, put out there and showcase online. So that's a really great tip on, you could still be really public and, share things, but at the same time maintain your privacy around, what's really important to you in life. And I think there's really a balance to it, and you really have to figure out what your tolerance is and what you're comfortable with, and then just like go fully into that. That's amazing. So I have a few more questions, and then don't forget that we're gonna open it up for some audience Q&A. So hopefully you all have some exciting, sort of juicy questions, maybe to ask about the show. But looking back, I'm curious, what's one of the biggest lessons that you learned about love and relationships?
I would say don't give up your sense of self. I think I often do that where I like mold to my partner and I'm very like easygoing, go with the flow. I'm always like, okay, yeah, whatever you want to do. Oh, you want this for dinner? Cool, I'm okay with it. But I think you tend to lose your sense of self when that happens. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is to have you time and like spend time apart and be independent individuals and come together as a unit instead of kind of morphing into one person. Because I think I tend to do that a lot where, I kind of become a chameleon.
For sure, yeah. So it sounds like your approach to relationships has changed a little bit
Yeah.
since Love is Blind. Is there a mistake or fuck up that you made post the show that actually helped you grow? And this could be something personal or professional, and launching your podcast or book.
It's I had a different question or a different answer to this because it's Valentine's Day, so I thought I'd talk about love. But right after Love Is Blind aired, I got into another relationship with somebody from Love Is Blind, which I think was the biggest fuck up ever. Yeah, so I think I like went back to my old ways of externalizing and finding validation in others, especially a romantic partner. And I, wanted to fill this void that was, I guess, shake or just the experience in itself ending. And I ran to another person instead of working on myself. So I think that was the biggest fuck up ever.
I can imagine. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think that theme also came up in Nina's
Yeah.
talk as well. And it's, sometimes you have to learn a lesson more than once
Mhm.
for it to really stick and for you to really internalize it. It's that's not uncommon at all. Um, are there any dating red flags that you think people ignore way too often, or that you've ignored?
Great question. I think it's when you're like on your first couple dates and they talk about their ex, like pay attention to how your partner or whoever you're going on a date with talks about their ex. If they're always like placing blame on them, like their ex partner for the relationship going south, or they're not taking any accountability for their own actions, I think that's a big red flag. And so I often talk a little bit about exes on like first dates and things just to see how they approach that topic.
For sure. I think there's a way to do it. Like maybe, not getting into the specifics, but maybe if it's around, like what you're looking for in your next relationship, or something that hasn't worked out, or something that you learned about yourself. I think there is a way to talk about it, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean when it kind of crosses a line. What's the worst dating advice that you've ever received or given? Yeah.
Oh, that's funny because this answer is both of those. I think I gave myself the worst advice ever is I always like to play hard to get and like match their energy. And I think I need to change doing that because why, build your foundation rocky? Start it off with honesty and actual authenticity and communication instead of playing games. And I think I loved to play games back in the day. So I'm changing that now, and we're going to be honest right from the bat.
Love that. Okay, so my last question before we get to the audience Q&A, do you think love is blind after this experience?
I think we all know it's not blind. I think a lot of couples on Love is Blind have gotten very lucky where emotional connection and physical connection has worked really well in balance for them. But I really don't think love is blind. I mean, physical matters just as much as emotional does.
For sure. I think we can all agree here.
Yeah, don't
But
tell the producers I told you that.
yeah, that's a secret between all of us.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump into some audience Q&A. If you have a question for Deepti, just raise your hand and we'll come to you with a mic.
Hi.
Oh no.
Good sir, hit the button for me on this thing. Hi, Deeps. How's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
My question is, how much does alcohol play a role in your reality show as well as the other reality shows?
Ooh. I was definitely very liquored up during Love is Blind. And I'm really glad they didn't air a lot of those moments. They're like, we're gonna give her a good edit. There's alcohol available to you at all times. After my reveal with Shake, it was 20 minutes long. And then afterwards, I'm pretty sure I blacked out during that also. But not because I was drinking, but it was like a crazy whirlwind of a experience. But I didn't see him again until we were in Mexico, which was 3 days later. So I had completely forgotten what this man even looked like. But as soon as we walk into the hotel room, huge, like, there's alcohol everywhere. So I think they want you to be a little liquored up, especially on Love is Blind, because they want you to talk about your emotions. They want you to kind of get a little crazy. But I have heard that on Bachelor, you're limited to what you drink. I've heard that from friends before. So I think they cap you like at 1 or 2 drinks on that show. So
Very cool. See, I knew you guys would have better questions than me. We're getting into some really interesting little bits.
Hi. Okay, so I have a lovely question. I'm an entrepreneur, also involved in like the personal growth space. I've got some goodies for you. Don't leave without it.
Aw.
Hey, my question is: I just recently pitched for Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, so our version of it. And of course, with reality TV, they're casting for Love Is Blind Toronto as well. Scary.
Oh.
What, do you have any tips for how you need to be with the producers? And then would you also do reality TV again?
Okay, great question. Tips, I would say don't do it. No, I just think that season one was the purest season of Love is Blind because they didn't know what was going to come from it. They didn't know how popular it was going to be. And as seasons go on, and you saw it even with my season, I feel like people are there for the wrong reasons. And so I would really question going on it because you might not find the most authentic people now. And I also have to say, like, again, the internet is not a kind place at all. So you have to have the emotional capacity to be able to endure the hate that comes your way and be able to handle that. And a lot of people find that very challenging. So that's something to keep in mind. As when it comes to other reality TV shows, I will never go on another love related reality TV show. But I think I would love to do Traders. Is anybody watching Traders? I feel like I would thrive in that show. So we'll see.
Who would go on Love is Blind Toronto? Any takers? I'm very curious. I knew that's amazing that there's a
Wow.
season happening here. I feel like it's just that's gonna be a crazy, crazy season of it. I love it.
Hi.
Huh?
My question is, how did you handle the fame that after Love is Blind is aired? I'm a psychotherapist, so I'm like quite interested in
Ah.
like I'm just like interested in the internal processing of like when someone had like a big event in their life and then really changed their, environment and then how they see themselves and then how they receive like feedbacks from like the external environment and world. So yeah, I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick your brain later. It was a very tough thing not to care what other people thought of me because I grew up having a lot of self hatred and almost to the point where I didn't even want to be myself. And so I feel like I had a lot of growth in that before I went on Love is Blind. And then that all of the things that I built around that kind of shattered when even Shake or the public had so many opinions about me. And I was quite depressed after the show, actually, just because you're on a high from filming and, getting all the love. And all of a sudden it kind of fades a little bit. So I think I was in like a very anxious, depressed state of mind where I was like going out with friends all the time. I was drinking all the time. I wasn't taking care of myself like I normally do. So I think you do go through that downhill stage, but slowly you see a light at the end of the tunnel and you realize, okay, it's not that bad. People have like moved on. There's 8 seasons now. It's coming, I think, airing tomorrow. So people kind of slowly start to, chill out with the hate and move on to something else. So it's been a process, but I think I'm growing from it every day.
Hi. Oh, maybe I'll stand.
Hi.
I'm a huge fan. Thanks so much for coming. As a fellow brown person, my question is like, what let you, like, what made you go on the show? Because like, I've always been like, I'll never go on the show for so many reasons, but also just like being a brown person, you're like told never to talk about your secrets, like never say anything, like even if it's good, you like don't text people. So like, what made you kind of go on the show in the first place?
Honestly, I was so scared applying for the show because I was like, my parents would never let me do this. But I realized I did everything so uniquely in life, no matter if I'm brown or not. I told my parents, like, hey, why not? This is kind of like an arranged marriage. So they were weirdly they were very supportive and on board. I have no idea why, but I think they kind of just gave up hope. They were like, whatever, at least she's looking for a person. Let her do it. It was tough though. I'm not gonna lie. After the show had aired, the most hate I got was from aunties and brown men, and I was like, okay. And so that was tough, but honestly, I think that's why I also wanted to do it is to, have representation that you don't have to be put in this box that people do. Like, I'm very much an intertwined soul, I say, of different cultures, growing up here and being born in India. So I wanted to just, go with my gut feeling and say, hey, this would be a really cool opportunity. Why not do it? Oh, one more here.
Hello. I know that obviously things are edited for dramatic effect. You had already touched on that, but wondering how you felt whether you were portrayed authentically in the editing or not, or what you were hoping that they would kind of do with the footage that you had, and whether you felt it was authentic to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I said, there were so many hours of filming, but the show doesn't air until a year after filming wraps. So I kind of like forgot even what I said and what I didn't say. So I was like, I guess it is what it is. I do have to say, you do want to be on the good side of producers. Like, just treat them right. They're humans. They're not like there to, I don't know, portray you terribly. But I think Shake took the opposite approach to that and was like, no, I'm going to be the villain. So he was not really on the good side of producers, I would say. Um, as far as like what they did and didn't show, I think I was edited pretty well. I do have to say, it is literally such a small fraction of who we really are as people. Like I said, they edited down so much, but I did this fun thing in interviews. So basically, they take a picture of you every time you do an interview, and you have to wear the exact same clothing, exact same jewelry. Makeup should be like pretty similar so that they can kind of put interviews that you do anywhere in the season. And so I would like switch up my rings and they didn't notice. And I was like, I didn't say that then. So those were like small little things I caught, but overall, I think I'm happy with it.
Hi. So tonight we've had a lot of people talk about how media has really helped their business grow. And obviously, you're giving us the dangers of the other side of media. So where do you think that happy balance is, and where would you give us your best lesson?
Oh, great question. I would say, I think a lot of people have touched on it tonight, is you have to just put yourself out there, no matter what the repercussions of that are. I think as long as you show up authentically, you will like inspire and bring in the right people into your life. And I think you just have to make sure that you know how to ignore the negative, because wherever you give it power, that's what's going to, increase, I guess, like just become bigger. So don't give the negativity the power, keep it positive and stay focused on your business. And I say that, but it took me a long time to kind of get to that mindset. So I would just say, just keep showing up authentically and you'll attract the right type of people and the right type of opportunities into your life.
Hi, thank you for sharing your story. So quick question, after such like a big event in your life, how do you decide next steps? Like I graduate in June and I just feel like I have so many options. I'm kind of overwhelmed. So after something like not catastrophic, but just like such a big event in your life, like how do you decide next steps?
Yeah. One big thing for me too is right after I graduated college too, I think I was like I was in the same boat as you. I didn't know which direction to go, but I didn't, get boggled down with the societal pressures, I would say, where you have to do certain things by a certain timeline. I think you need to just go at your own pace and journal. I feel like journaling has helped me through so much. And even right after Love is Blind, all of my castmates were doing brand deals. They were going on trips and doing things. And I was just like, I'm heartbroken. I do not want to work right now, But I think that time that I took for myself to heal really helped me. So I would really say, yeah, just look internally to where your passion lies and journal a lot about it and see where that takes you. Mhm.
Amazing advice. So I think we're going to do two more questions and then we'll start to wrap up.
Thank you. First of all, huge fan. Huge, huge, huge fan of you. Brown girl. Love you, girl. Um, and my question to you is like, you spoke about rejection and rejection being redirection, but how do you keep yourself motivated through those times of being rejected?
You know, um, I stopped relying on motivation because oftentimes I feel like I'm not very motivated. I think it's really in discipline is and also identifying when you're having negative thoughts about a certain event or something that happens in your life. I think you need to take a step back and instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, this didn't happen for me how I expected it to, I think you just take a moment to yourself and say, okay, you can wallow in this for a day or two max, and then you have to get up and discipline yourself and get right back to where what you want to do and focus on your goals because again, do not give it energy.
Hey, Deepti.
Hi.
Question for you. You're on the go. You've got lots of things. You've got your podcast. You got your book, and you're in the spotlight now. What is the piece that you do that is your downtime? Is your peace? And what's kind of centers you back so you have your energy because you don't want to burn out.
Yeah. I often feel like I do burn out a lot. Um, I think it's surrounding myself with my friends and family who truly know me. I think they ground me a lot. And also spending time in nature. I always run off like into the mountains or go to the beach and I find my serenity there. I often find that like around people, I get drained often, and it's not because of other people. It's just I think it's an internal thing. So going to nature, I think really helps me just ground myself.
I love that. Amazing questions, everybody. Thank you so much. I have two more questions to kind of bring everything back together and to wrap up. So, one is what's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody who's struggling to trust and to love themselves after a failure?
I would say give yourself some grace. We are not our failures, and I think truly you learn so much from failing that you should focus not that certain things didn't happen your way, but more so, okay, what can I take away from this? What have I learned, and where can I adjust my steps or behaviors to get a different outcome? I think if you just shift the focus a little bit, I think it makes it so much easier.
I love that. And I feel like I literally have a slide that I put up after all our speakers, and you'll see it after this as well. And that's literally what Fuck Up Nights is all about. Just because you fucked up at something, it doesn't mean that you as a person are a fuck up. And just being able to reframe that in your mind and choose to give yourself grace, like you said, that's everything, and how you're able to move on from failure and to learn from it. My last question is just curious what's next for you, and where can people connect with you?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, we have the podcast Out of the Pods, me and Natalie from our season. I think we're going to be doing a live tour coming up this year. So we're really excited about that. And then also, me and Natalie are running off to London in 2 weeks for a whole month and a half. So we're going to do some traveling. And yeah, so it's going to be an exciting year, actually. And you guys can find Out of the Pods on any platform that you listen to podcasts. And my Instagram is Life with Deeps.
Amazing. That's so exciting. And I really hope that you make Toronto one of those stops on your tour. I feel like you have a lot of fans here.
We absolutely will.
Amazing.
Thank you
Thank you
guys.
so much. Thank you, Deepti.